Welcome back, everyone. Let's talk some more gameplay changes for the upcoming sequel to the UNI2 series. Just to note for you guys, this video is intended to come out much earlier, but literally today, right after recording the previous video, I got sick with COVID from Evo. Fortunately, it was a mild case that I was able to recover from smoothly, but my voice was not in the best shape for doing another video right away. So with that in mind, things are good now, fortunately. But anyway, today's video is going to be specifically about Creeping Edge, which I think is going to be the most impactful new gameplay change. Obviously, the other gameplay changes will carry some sort of impact too, which we'll get to perhaps in other videos down the line. But let's talk about Creeping Edge specifically. For those of you that are unaware, Creeping Edge is basically a role. It's like the Undernight Invert's take on adding like a KOF-esque role to the game. Now, obviously in KOF, role is mainly, it can be used as like an additional defensive option for escaping some otherwise pretty nasty left-right mix-ups or even getting out of the corner. And I feel like that can be applied in the same way to this game. However, because of the associated like opportunity costs with, the fact that roll might get you out of the corner, but there's so much recovery that it doesn't require much to have the awareness to punish. And that's the case in KOF 15. That seems to also be the case in this game. But then you have the associated additional cost of if you're not able to successfully phase through something with Creeping Edge, then you actually lose some grid. So that makes it a lot harder to win the much needed cycle, which I think will carry a lot more importance in this upcoming sequel due to some of the mechanics that were added on top of Creeping Edge. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and watch some clips. I have a lot of clips here that showcase some of Creeping Edge's properties, and we'll break down some of the important details for those of you that are nerds or some of the high-level service level things that those of you that might not be as interested in the deeper things can still digest from. So this first example, I just throw it out in neutral. It's just to kind of show some of the basic properties of it. So sorry, one sec. Let me change the output here so that's not too loud. But yes, here roll was thrown basically randomly out of neutral. And I did this a lot during the demo booths just to hopefully give those that were watching an idea of what the new mechanics were like in a very non like super focused or super high level context, just to at least see what these things do. So the first frame of Creeping Edge starts right here, where Nanase does this little lean forward. That's her standing animation. This is the beginning of the Creeping Edge animation. And as far as we can tell right now, Creeping Edge is actually strike invincible from the very first frame. So at this point, Nanase would be invincible, but of course, it's not until the fourth frame where we see this sort of flashing effect. Now, it's not certain what this sort of flashing effect distinguishes from the initial parts of the Creeping Edge movement, but at least for the time being, we do know that there's invincibility during the early parts of it. Now, something we'll see in some of the later clips as well is that you get a shield effect if you successfully phase through anything. On top of that, if you whiff, there's like a large amount of recovery, and you also lose grid during that recovery. We'll see later too that there's an interesting grid break property that happens. But yeah, that's like a very high level summary of Creeping Edge. We'll go and see some specifics and actual instances, because this was more so just like, okay, it's thrown randomly in neutral so that you can see the frames and all of that. So in this clip, and it's gonna loop, so I'll let it loop a few times and then we'll go frame by frame. But basically, Creeping Edge here is used in the middle of Phonon's blockstring, specifically to phase through her 3C. And 3C is pretty notably high recovery move of Phonon's. It does work into like specials, and I believe it also has some, I believe on hit it can also cancel under other normals like usual. But because this did technically not hit, like it's not like shield normally would be, where you can still cancel out of it if you cancel into it soon enough. But the thing is, for what we know about Creeping Edge so far, you're not actually able to cancel a move you did into the Creeping Edge shield effect. Sorry that this is kind of getting a little bit messy and convoluted in the explanation, but to summarize, if you shield a normal, for example, in this game, the cancel window for that normal is actually reduced. That's not something that very many people know. Not only is the blocks reduced, which most people do know, but the cancel window of that move that connected into your shield is actually also reduced. This is somewhat relevant for some pressure strings, but most of the time people aren't going to notice it if they're like kind of pressing their buttons pretty quickly throughout their block string. But oftentimes people do go for stagger pressure, and that's when you'll notice the cancel window being reduced a bit more easily. Not the case for creeping edge, however. Despite the fact that there's a shield effect that we'll see like once this moment happens. So there's a shield effect, but there's actually, it's like, how do I say it? It's not like it actually touched. Like basically it's not considered to have been blocked or hit this 3C. So that means Phonon's not able to cancel this at all. Now, interestingly, this shield effect works actually very similarly to how it would work if you shielded on normal. You do gain the grid. Your opponent does lose the grid, but you still have all the recovery of creeping edge, which is a bit of an issue, right? Because creeping edge has a lot of recovery. It's similar to KOF, where if you whiff that roll, your opponent has quite a bit of time to potentially punish if they're ready for it. In this game, it's like even more so. It seems that like, you know, Phonon completely basically whiffed. Let's just call it how it is. Like she basically just whiffed 3C entirely and still recovers much more quickly. Now, recovering quickly and seeing and understanding the situation quickly is two separate matters. And in this case, the Phonon didn't really take full advantage of the fact that they were in recovery much quicker than I was. Of course, this is natural in the sort of infancy stages of any new mechanic. People are not going to understand the scrambles as well, right? But in this case, it's noteworthy because it feels like Noneset could have been punished here, despite the fact that the roll was successful. Now, notice as well the frame that it occurs. So this is, as we discussed earlier, this is the fourth frame, the first frame that we see this flashing effect. Now, it's not until the seventh frame that we actually get the shield effect, as noted by the slight dimming of the screen. And that's also the first frame where Noneset's grid gain starts to increase, if you'll notice at the bottom here, as well as the first frame that Phonon's grid loss first occurs. That's really all there is to note about this clip. Again, as we continue going through these successive clips, we'll start to learn more about this new mechanic. So next clip showing another example of phasing through one of Phonon's block strings. And it's similar in that it's hard to take full advantage of having done so. But because of the scramble associated, as you can see, like the situation was sort of misread. And whoever got their button out there first was going to be going to be a lot more favored. Not going to be the case, I think, once people start to have a better grasp on creeping edge and read situations a lot more easily. So we'll frame by frame here. As you can see, nothing input just yet, but notice how you can input creeping edge from crouching, as I did so here. You can see I'm crouching right here, still in the blocking, and like still kind of, doing the Noneset block stun, animation, I guess you can say. And then the moment I escape block stun, like basically I'm just mashing 3D, right? Probably. And this is the first frame of creeping edge right here. And you can see that the second frame is all it takes for that shield effect to begin. You can see my grid increases at the very bottom here. Going the previous frame back to the next frame, you can see my grid increases. That's also when Phonon's grid loss begins. And notice how this was only the second frame, not the frame where we saw the flashing effect from before. So this to me even more so says that, like, yeah, we do have strike invincibility from frame one, and of course projectile invincibility as well from frame one on creeping edge. At least that would be my hunch, right? It's not been truly confirmed, but it's extremely likely, given that this was literally the second frame of creeping edge, and it's still before the official flash frames of that we saw earlier with, like, the fourth frame little flash around the character. So as you will note, the shield indicator like still comes out. We're not even on the fourth frame yet. This is the third frame, like second frame right here, third frame right here. That's where we see the shield indicator start to come out. Of course, that's just like a consequence of the game itself. Like the shield still technically happens right here, but it takes a bit for the indicator to actually show up, right? Now what happens next is interesting, because as you can see, Phonon's still in recovery of the fireball, right? But I'm wondering if she can CS here, because technically you can CS specials on whiff, right? And as we kind of conjectured earlier, whenever something gets phased through by a creeping edge, it's probably considered to have whiffed, right? Despite the fact that the shield effect triggers. So I am wondering if Phonon could have CS'd and actually got a solid punish from this, but that's yet to be seen from a clip such as this. But anyway, as you can see, it's kind of hard to read the situation early. And the minute that I recovered, I pressed 5A. Even though 5A is 6 frames of non-set, like, it's, you know, it's still going to beat out a later press of 2A from Phonon. In that regard, this is what happened. Okay, next clip. This one is more so just like a proof of concept that you can use it to escape the corner, similar to as you would in KOF, even if you don't successfully go through something. I'm successfully out of the corner now. Fade has been turned on its head against Carmine, no less. So that's actually a very useful thing, I think. It's going to be something that certainly a lot of new players will be at peace with, the fact that they have an option to get out of the corner a bit more easily. And honestly, you're not really giving up that much if you can still have Vorpal as the Carmine player does here. Because you can still have an option to get that back to put them back in the corner. Or even better, you can still side switch combo them. So I don't think that's going to be a too big of a deal for the attacker, but it's at least very nice for the defender to be able to get out of there like so. Of course, costed me grid here, and I believe I lost the cycle due to this. Or no, it was because of the whiffed green shield rather. But regardless, point taken. I didn't actually phase through anything. That should be noted. But still also note that there's no collision box right here. So, or is there? There probably was actually, but because the common player forward jumped, it like kind of didn't matter basically. Anyway, that was it for that clip. Very simple, very straightforward. Let's go through the last couple clips, and then there's an analysis from. I want to do a little bit of what Kamone said on the new roll mechanic. That one I think will provide a lot of good insight as well. So this instance is probably the best example of using creeping edge in terms of what can go wrong. So as you saw there, this is kind of like a KOF moment where I feel like you're throw punishable for the entire duration of creeping edge. And as you see, since I did not phase through anything, I was not only grid broken, it was also a counter hit. Like, I'm not sure if those two things are directly associated. Like, I'm not quite sure what creates it to be a counter hit versus what wouldn't. But based on this like isolated situation, it seems pretty certain that if you entirely whiff creeping edge, that is, you don't go through anything, then you're fully vulnerable to a throw. Not only a throw, of course, but a grid break throw. Pretty dangerous, of course. Now, note that grid break throw, this is like an aside, but grid break throw, as you saw there, doesn't do as much damage as it does currently in Uniclair. It does only about, what, 1.5? Which is not a lot at all, to be honest, considering that, the whole philosophy that we had thought was the case from prior games was that, okay, you're rewarded for making that read on the opponent's crouch tech or some sort of miscalculated shield. In this case, miscalculated creeping edge. But now the damage for grid break throw has been reduced, so, sure, I guess. Okay, that was it for that clip too. Now, this clip is the clip of Kamone explaining himself, his thoughts on why they put creeping edge into the game and what you potentially want to see out of it. Thanks again to Arxes.
What is your design philosophy behind the new roll mechanic, the 3+D, where you have like the roll? What is that like? You feel is the intended purpose behind that?
ロールのシステムっていうのはどういった、考えのもとで、使ってるでしょうか。
そうですね。ちょっと待ってください。はい、そうですね。私有をやってくださった方だと知って気がついたと思うんですけど、斜め下と D で、ロール前方回避っていうシステムが出るんですけど、ちょっと名前とか詳細は伏せるんですけど、まずそこから。
Yeah, so I think if you guys played the previous games, there is a roll mechanic where it's diagonal down and D.
で、それを追加することで、新規の人がすごい遊びやすくなるし、既存のプレイヤーも新しい読み合いができるようにしたいなと思って入れました。
So we added that mechanic to sort of appeal to newer players and attract newer players and make it a little bit more fun and enjoyable for them, but also for the existing players, something to experiment further and expand the game's depth.
Yeah, and let's be real, like, that was excellently put by the translator, from my understanding. So, like, super big thanks to him. But also, the fact that you have a mechanic you can add to the game that doesn't completely put the game out of, out of joint, right? But still adds like an additional element to the gameplay that is not only interesting but can be easily grasped by new players and veteran players alike. I think that's kind of the goal behind any sort of new gameplay mechanic that you'd add to an existing fighting game, especially one that rewards legacy skill quite a bit, such as Under Night and Birth, right? And a lot of other French bred games for that matter. But yeah, that was excellently said. I'm hoping that that'll indeed be the case. Of course, some people do have their opinions on what role might bring to the game. I personally don't see it as too much of an issue, given that it does already seem that you don't have to put in too much effort to punish it, but you do have to be slightly on your toes at least to be able to recognize the situation and take full advantage of your advantage that you're given. Yeah, I think that was the main thing about what he said here. Now, of course, it might look pretty lopsided in terms of how it benefits certain characters over others, or how it benefits against certain characters compared to others. This is, of course, just based on what has been extracted from the current game's roster. Like characters such as Hilda, of course, rely a lot on their 50-50. Carmine as well has been a character that's been taken to the next level thanks to his fuzzy setups. And if all that can be escaped by a mere 3+D, that'll be interesting to see. But, again, there's still a lot that's going to be going on. There's still a lot of changes that we might not be aware of. So it's very all exciting. And I'm hoping that we'll indeed see it come to fruition as he intended. That's really the main things I had, guys, for this video. Don't want to make it too much longer. There's this excellent thread that Foxa42 made on roll. There's a couple of discrepancies, though, not too many, but the fact that I think he said shield effect activates on roll from frame 4. I believe this is not true. I believe this can activate as early as the first frame, based on what we can kind of gather and take as the implication from some of the clips I showed. I think it's possible to get that in the first frame. Otherwise, seems pretty accurate from my understanding. There's still, of course, yet a lot to be tested. And for the time being, I would like you guys to check this out and see for yourself, give your own thoughts on it. If you have any thoughts that you think are worth adding as complimentary to this video, feel free to do so in the comments, of course. I definitely look at all the comments and try to respond to each one that I think is really thoughtful. So feel free to leave that. Otherwise, I think that's going to do it, guys, for this video. So thanks for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.